I'll never forget that morning, even though it was years ago. I remember that morning like it was, well, this morning. You don't forget a morning like that. Everything changed that morning. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm sorry. My name is Mary. No, not Mary, the mother of Jesus. Not Mary Magdalene either. I'm not even Mary, the sister of Lazarus. You probably know me as the other Mary. That's what Matthew called me when he included me in the story of Jesus' resurrection. That's the morning I'm talking about. Of course, the morning Jesus was resurrected. Never in my life had one day been so filled with such deep sorrow and such magnificent joy. It all started when my friend Mary and I went to the tomb. For the record, I'll call her the other Mary. She's from a small village called Magdala. And when she met Jesus, her life was changed forever, completely changed, radically changed. But I'll let you tell you her story. I want to tell you my story. See, we were going to properly prepare Jesus' body for burial. We didn't have the time to do it the day he I'm sorry, even though it was so long ago, I still remember what his body looked like when they took him down off everything was so rushed that day. There just wasn't time to prepare his body. So that's why Mary and I went to the tomb that morning. We were going to give Jesus the honor and respect he deserved. The sun hadn't risen, but the darkness was the least of our concerns. There had been an earthquake, a massive earthquake. And that earthquake was the second earthquake in just 3 days. We thought the world was coming to an end. And in addition to the earthquake, we knew we'd have to deal with that stone. We had no idea how we'd move that thing, but we knew we had to try. We couldn't just do nothing, you know. Well, as it turned out, the stone wasn't a problem either. It had already been moved. And the angel who moved it was sitting on top of it. I'm telling you, he was just sitting up there like he owned the place. I'd never seen an angel before. To be honest, if I never see another angel in this life, it'll be fine with me. He was radiant. He gleamed. The only way I can describe him to you is to say he looked like a bolt of lightning. I want to say he was beautiful because he was, but he was also terrifying at the same time. If you don't believe me, you can ask those Roman soldiers. They were just laying on the ground trying not to move a muscle, trembling with dread. The angel saw us and spoke to us. It was like he'd been waiting for us. He told Mary and me there was no need to be afraid. I thought you better tell that to those soldiers laying over there. He said then, I remember his exact words. He said, I know that you seek Jesus, who was crucified. He's not here, for he is risen, just as he said. That's what the angel said. He told us Jesus was alive. Knowing that we'd have our doubts, the angel invited us to look inside the tomb. He was right. Jesus wasn't there. I was flooded with emotions. I was still afraid from everything I'd just seen. Now I was confused by what I didn't see. I was also angry. I was upset. I was just a mess. We saw Joseph lay Jesus right there, while Mary and I sat over here. And Joseph laid Jesus in the tomb right there, and now Jesus was nowhere to be found. We didn't have time to ponder what this meant. The angel didn't really give us a chance to ask any questions. There was an urgency in his voice. He simply said, "Hurry. Go tell the disciples that Jesus is alive and tell them to go to Galilee where he'll meet them." You know what you do when an angel gives you a command? You do exactly what he says. The two of us ran out of the tomb as fast as we could. We were as terrified as we were excited. Could it be true? Could Jesus be alive? Well, that question was answered within a matter of seconds. As we raced back toward town, we heard a familiar voice. "Greetings!" Greetings? We turned, and there was Jesus motioning to us. We ran to him and fell down in front of him. All we could do was hold on tightly to those feet. I'll never forget those feet. I could still see the wounds caused by the nails. But Jesus had something to say. Repeating the angel's message, Jesus said, "Don't be afraid. Go tell my brothers to meet me in Galilee." Mary and I were just sobbing. So that's what we did. We delivered the message. You should have seen Peter's face. He and John flew out of that house like it was on fire. I told Matthew, I told Bartholomew, I told Andrew, I told Philip, and I told James. No, not Big James, the son of thunder. I'm talking about the James the others called Little James. Jesus called this James the son of Alphaeus. I just called this James son. I guess it just makes sense. The lesser known James belongs to the lesser known Mary. When James met Jesus, the first thing he did was introduce his father and me to his rabbi. Oh, you should have seen my James. He smiled like a prince, following Jesus all over Galilee. He told us about the blind man. He told us about the leper. He told us about Lazarus. He told us about everything. We loved hearing those stories when Jesus and the boys came to town. I wish you could have seen my James when I told him about his Jesus. I didn't think it was possible for James to be any happier than when he met Jesus. But when James saw Jesus for himself a little later that same day, there was no end to his joy. Something changed within James that day. My boy told everyone he met that his Jesus is the Son of God who had come to save the world from sin. I remember the last day I saw my James. He told me he was headed to Syria. He said there were people there that needed to hear about Jesus too. But they did to my James what they did to our Jesus. They killed him. I miss him, of course. But my James died telling the world about our Savior. Look, I know this might sound like to you. I know what it may sound crazy. Maybe you think I'm just an old woman with a crazy story. You didn't feel the earthquake. You didn't hear the angel. You didn't see the empty tomb. Think whatever you want. Believe whatever you will. But if you follow the risen Christ, my Christ, your life will never be the same.
Well, let me welcome you along with the team, the worship team, with the other congregational members that may have greeted you, and the other Mary who told all of us her story. But it raises a question. It's a very simple question, but it comes with a profound answer. What does it all mean? What does all of this that we celebrate at Easter mean? See, a lot of people, when they come to Easter, they ponder its meaning. I hope that you do the same thing. I hope that you have an answer. I hope that you have the right answer. But I would rather you have the wrong answer than no answer at all. So I'm going to read you the story that the other Mary just told us. And as I do, I want you to ponder the question, what does it mean? Along with your answer. What does Easter mean? After the Sabbath, toward dawn of the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to see the tomb. And behold, there was a great earthquake, for the angel of the Lord had descended from heaven and came and rolled back the stone and sat on it. His appearance was like lightning, and his clothing white as snow. And for fear of him, the guards trembled and became like dead men. But the angel said to the women, "Do not be afraid, for I know that you seek Jesus who was crucified. He is not here. He is risen as he said." Those three little words are underlined in my Bible. I invite you to do the same thing in your Bible. Come, see the place where he lay, and then go quickly and tell his disciples that he is risen from the dead, and behold, he is going before you to Galilee, and there you will see him. See, I have told you. So they departed quickly from the tomb with fear and great joy, and ran to tell his disciples. And behold, Jesus met them and said, "Greetings." I have no idea the tone. I want Jesus to replay that when I get there, okay? Like, how did you say? Was it a shout? Was it like a joke? Like, did you come up behind him? How did you say that, Jesus? And they came up and took hold of his feet and worshiped him. And then Jesus said to them, "Do not be afraid." If there was ever a reason for you to never be afraid ever again, it's this reason right here. Go and tell my brothers to go to Galilee, and there they will see me. That's the story. No. That's the story. This story defines every other story. This story defines your very existence. This is the most important story. I don't know what you believe that this story means. I have no idea. And I think that if we were to try to wring it dry of all of its meaning, we would spend 10 lifetimes attempting to do so and still fail. So, knowing that you probably have plans tomorrow, let me whittle down Easter to just two very humble answers. Here's what Easter does. First, the resurrection offers an invitation. That's what it does. I love it. The angel meets them and says, Jesus is alive. He is not here. You came looking for a dead guy, but he's alive. If you don't believe me, come on in and check it out. Poke around. Look in the nooks and crannies. Take a gander, as they may say where I come from. I love that. I love the angel's invitation. I'm certain it comes at God's graciousness, of course, because I like the lateral that comes with that. You know, the angel delivers a message. He's alive. He's not dead. He is not here. And then he says, come and check it out for yourself. I love that. Because this is asking a lot of us, that a dead man that some of us saw actually die, breathe his last on a cross, that guy is still alive? Nobody comes back from that sort of death. Are you sure? I love it because this is the pivotal story, the crucial story in the Bible. There's a lot of great stories in the Bible. But the most important one is this one. It's not Noah's ark. It's not Daniel and the lion's den. It's not even Jesus walking on water or healing the blind man or casting out some demons. No, no, no. The most fundamental, the most crucial story of them all. All those stories are true. All those stories are good and necessary. But this story is the one that all the others hinge upon. In fact, if you look at 1 Corinthians 15, very simply, the Apostle Paul, who used to kill Christians and then followed Jesus for the rest of his life, who lost his life for Jesus. He writes in 1 Corinthians 15, he goes, listen, the empty tomb, the fact that Jesus is alive, it's the basis, it's the foundation of my preaching, it's the basis and the foundation of your faith. And then he says this line in 1 Corinthians 15. He says, if the resurrection is not true, if Jesus' bones are rotting somewhere in a desert in the Middle East, he says, if Jesus is not alive, your faith is in vain, and you Christians are to be pitied above all other people. But in fact, Jesus is alive. You know how we know that? Because Easter has nothing to hide. God has nothing to hide. He just flings the door open. The angel's sitting up there like the other mayor says, like he owns the place. Come on in, poke around, snoop around a little bit, look around, smell it, look at it, take a picture, post it on Facebook. I don't care. He's not here. He's alive. I love that. I love that message, the power behind it, his veracity. Josiah and I, our 16-year-old son, we're like a couple of YouTube dudes, right? We love watching YouTube. And the angel, he's like just flinging it open, come check it out. But we like to watch these guys, these channels like the magicians, you know, they wear the cool vest, they got the sleeves, and they're doing all these little fancy tricks and everything. And like we watch them see how they're done or how they're, you know, how you can learn to do them yourself and everything. But every single time you hear one of those, the guy rolls up his sleeves and he goes, look, Ed, there's nothing up my sleeve, right? Yeah. All of them say, fine. Can I check your pockets? Can I look up under your hat? Can you just like unbutton your vest a little bit? Oh, no. Oh, you've got something to hide. See, God's angel, the message of Easter is, dude, come on in. The invitation is, check it out. Oh, but you understand, I've got doubts. Oh, well, you're the only one that's ever had doubt. No, come on in. No, you don't understand. I've got some fears. Oh, we got a group in here too. Come on. No, you don't understand. I've got some baggage. Room for you as well. Come and see. Check it out. And don't leave the tomb until your soul is satisfied. That's the first invitation. The second one is this, and it's much more important. This is the point. The second invitation is to see Jesus. That's the whole point, right? I mean, because if you tell me that Jesus is alive, that means I can see him again. If you tell me that Jesus is no longer dead, I can be with him again. If you tell me that he's here, like we can have that blessed togetherness, that fellowship that we once had again, right? And the answer is absolutely yes. That's what the angel says. This is a make or break story. This is the make or break story of the Christian faith. And so he says, come in, check it out. But the greater invitation is to see Jesus. Now, here's the thing. There's a little bit of a catch. If you're going to see Jesus, you're going to have to obey heaven's message. The angel says, go and go quickly. We'll get there in a second. You can't see Jesus if you stay where you are. You've got to obey heaven's message. The guy who looks like a lightning bolt, you got to do what he says if you want to see Jesus. You've got to go to his disciples and tell them to go to Galilee. He picked out that mountain. Remember that mountain? Remember that mountain we talked about? Yeah. That one. He's going to meet you there. Okay? So if you want to see Jesus, go. So that brings us to the tough part of Easter. Did you know that was a tough part of Easter? It brings us to the dicey part of Easter. It brings us to the rubber meets the road part of Easter. You see, everybody loves the fact that Easter offers an invitation, but let's just get down to it. Easter also demands an obligation. The angel has spoken. Heaven has spoken. Go and tell the disciples. In fact, no, scratch that. Go quickly and tell the disciples. Am I the only one? Can we just have Bible study real quick? Am I the only one who wonders why go tell the disciples? Because if I was writing the email from heaven that morning, this is how I would have said it, okay? Go tell Pilate he's alive. You go tell those chief priests who connived behind the backs, and you tell them that Jesus, you get up all those Pharisees and you tell them in their original Hebrew language, I believe it's pronounced nanny, nanny, boo, boo, okay? Jesus is alive. Get all the haters together. Gather up all the atheists. Get them all around. Get a megaphone. Turn on the mic. Jesus is alive. No. Tell the disciples. Why the disciples? I got an answer I got like 17 answers for it. And we're going to actually talk about some of those answers, shameless plug here, starting next week, as we jump into a massive Bible study through the book of Acts. One of those disciples being little James, and how his life was changed. Hint, hint, you should come back next Saturday night. And the next one, basically, until Jesus returns, you just hang out here with us, okay? Everybody got to say, got it? Okay, there we go. So there you go, friends. The Easter message, it is a good message, but it demands an obligation. Go and go quickly and tell his disciples. And so there's this crazy thing that happens. The ladies, according to Matthew, they run out of the tomb. They are afraid, but they have great joy. They are afraid, fear and great joy. Sometimes people ask me, oh, you're a pastor. Oh, you're a pastor. What is that like? Like when you serve God, does that like make you happy? Or like when you serve God, does that make you like afraid? Yes. But yes. I don't know if you've ever had those two emotions at the same time. I thought about it this week. I'm like, what is it like to get inside Mary and the other Mary's head and heart on this moment? I can tell you. It was January 9th, 2006. Again, that date means nothing to anybody in here except for me, my wife, and this guy over here, because that's the day he was hatched. At 4:15, at a hospital across the street right there, Josiah comes popping out. And at 4:15, he's crying, he's all cleaned up. They put him over there in a little crate thing. And that was the moment I should have stamped it Botswana and put it in the mail, okay? But we're there, and everything's going great. Mama's healthy, he's healthy. There's just a little problem. He doesn't want to eat. He's not hungry. And all the nurses, all the staff, they're like, oh, we gotta feed him, gotta feed him, gotta feed him. I'm like, listen, he like his daddy. He'll eat when he's ready, okay? And so at 4:15, I'm looking at this. I have never been more. I'm like, this is going to be awesome. This is going to be amazing to be a dad, right? And so for hours, he just lays there. It's a little bit past midnight, a full 8 hours. He hasn't touched. And finally, he nurses for the first time. Whew, everybody's relaxed. Mama goes to sleep. I'm standing there. The last nurse of the shift there before the night comes is in the room. She's checking this and touching that and doing this and everything. And then she steps over to the door, and she closes it mostly. And the woman says these words to me. These words. She goes, okay, Dad, have a good night. Make sure little Jojo doesn't suffocate in his sleep. Click. Tom, not the greatest bedside manner, I don't think, right, Doc? Okay? Yeah, I had been stoked. I had been excited. Now I'm terrified to be a dad. But that's what was going through these women's hearts. They had fear, but they had hope. And when they obeyed and they began to go and tell the disciples that Jesus was alive, they met somebody. Jesus himself. So I want you to lock in on this. When you obey what God says, Jesus, by the way, says the exact same thing that the angel says. And by the way, Jesus is not repeating the angel. The angel had simply told the women what Jesus had already told him. See, there's an org chart in heaven, and Jesus is at the top of it, all right, above all the angels, this one included. Jesus says, do not be afraid. Go tell my brothers, I'll meet them in Galilee. They were the first humans to ever see, these two women, the first humans to ever see the risen Christ. Can you imagine that moment? Holding on to his feet. But they had acted in faith, and their faith was instantly rewarded. I want to tell you something, friends, as we wrap up tonight. If you're willing to take a step of faith, listen, I get it. Some of us, the step of faith is this big of a step. I get it, to follow Jesus. Some of us, it's that Indiana Jones step of faith, you know, right there with his dad, the big old step of faith. And it seems like nothingness. I'm telling you, what I know about the God behind this book is he always rewards those steps of faith, no matter how small or how big they may seem to you. So Easter comes with an obligation. He says to the women, go tell my disciples, go tell my brothers. Now what are they going to do? Better question is, what you going to do? See, if Jesus is who Easter says he is, if Jesus is who Easter says he is, he's conquered death. He's conquered Satan. He's conquered sin. He's conquered the grave. I'm going to ask you a question. Are you comfortable telling a guy like that, no? See, maybe you're comfortable telling your parents no. Maybe you're comfortable telling your boss no. Maybe you're even comfortable telling Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson no, okay? But are you comfortable telling a guy who's been dead for the past 3 days and by his own power has been raised back to life? You comfortable telling that guy no? I don't recommend it. Easter comes with an obligation. It makes a demand upon us. He is alive. And if he's alive, he's the King of every king. He's the Lord of every Lord. He's the God who is matchless. I would encourage you to do what he says. I would encourage you tonight to make Jesus your Lord, your King, your Savior, your leader. You simply do that by saying, Jesus, I believe that you are God's Son. I heard what she said. I heard what the Word says. I want to start following you. I don't know how. I just know I'm a sinner and I need you. Will you love me? I promise you, if you come to the Lord in faith, he will hear. And he will embrace. And he will forgive. And he will lead you. He will change everything about your life. But you must obey. So do it, and do it quickly.